In my last video, we flew to Maui aboard one of Hawaiian's A321neos, which often end up getting completely overshadowed by Hawaiian's other aircraft, like their much-loved 717s. And since we were already here, how could I resist checking one out? So today I hope you will join me on the very short hop from Maui to Honolulu. At first glance, the Boeing 717 may seem unremarkable, but its lineage is surprisingly interesting. Despite having Boeing in its name, it's actually a continuation of the classic DC-9 from all the way back in the 60s. In the early 80s, Douglas, then McDonnell Douglas, created a second generation of DC-9s, the MD-80 family, and in the 90s went on to stretch that for the MD-90. In the late 1990s, they wanted to create a smaller 100-seat variant to replace the original DC-9s, but instead of shrinking the long 170-seat MD-90, they went back to the shorter DC-9-30, updated it with new engines, avionics, and a glass cockpit, and called it the MD-95. Thanks to the McDonnell Douglas-Boeing merger, though, it would enter production as the 717 with 150 built. All of this makes the 717 the last of a long-lived and very important family of aircraft. Well, except maybe for the C909, but that's a story for another day. With just Delta, who operates them on the East Coast while I live on the West, and Hawaiian left flying these, I hope you see why I had to give one a try. And right where we left off in the last video, welcome to Kahului, the main airport for the island of Maui, and the second busiest Hawaiian airport, only beaten by today's destination, Honolulu. Despite the relatively small size of this airport, with just 16 stands, it sees some surprisingly large aircraft. Hawaiian uses it as a secondary hub, with a few daily A330s on their key routes to Seattle and Los Angeles, where Delta also sends a 767 from. American sends a 777-200 daily from Dallas, and United uses their high-capacity 777-200s, carrying as many as 360 passengers once daily from Denver, along with a once-weekly Dreamliner all the way from Chicago. On the complete other end of the spectrum, Mokulele Airlines, now owned by Southern Airways Express, who we've seen previously, operates some Cessna 208s to the nearby islands, and even a flight just to the other end of Maui. All this traffic means this little airport was absolutely packed when I was here, so I just spent most of my time at my gate. While waiting for my plane to land, I got a really lucky catch, a V-22 Osprey. This is my first time ever seeing one up close outside of an airshow. It's certainly not something I ever expected to see at a commercial airport, but this one is visiting for some military exercises held in the area. I also saw some C-130s while taxiing in for the same reason. And here's our aircraft. This is November 488 Hotel Alpha, a 27-year-old Boeing 717. It first flew in 1998, originally registered November 717 X-Ray Bravo, Boeing's second 717 prototype. Since the first prototype has been scrapped, this aircraft is the oldest of its type flying. In 2001, after a few years as a testbed aircraft, it entered commercial service in Australia. It initially flew with Impulse Airlines, but would go on to be handed back and forth between QantasLink and Jetstar. In 2008, it finally joined Hawaiian. They selected the 717 to replace their aging DC-9s, exactly the role it was intended for. Today, Hawaiian has 19 in their fleet, although they have quite a variety of origins, with an initial batch directly from the production line in the early 2000s, the batch that ours is a part of from Australia in 2008, a few from the collapsing Midwest Airlines in 2011, and a few more from Spanish budget airline Volotea as late as 2017. This aircraft does not have the range to reach the mainland, so Hawaiian uses it exclusively for inter-island service, meaning it will never fly more than an hour. With such short flights, these aircraft will fly as many as 12 times a day. By the way, what do you think of the time-lapse I've been using as our background footage? I'll be releasing a video with a couple of these time-lapses soon to try out some other types of content in between the flight reviews. Also, if you are enjoying this review so far, make sure to like and subscribe for more. And time to board. Hawaiian uses their normal boarding groups for this small plane, with premium cabins and status holders boarding first, then economy and basic economy. As mentioned in the last video, all Hawaiian aircraft are given names, and since the 717s are all named after a Hawaiian bird, ours is named Puaiohi, a critically endangered thrush native to Kauai. Hawaiian 717s have 128 seats in total. The front of the aircraft contains this little section of 8 ancient first-class seats in just 2 rows. Behind that, you will find the other 120 economy seats, 17 of which are extra comfort seats in a 2-3 layout, which is sadly pretty rare today. Overhead, you will find some pretty small shelf-style bins. Both the economy and extra comfort seats are old Acro Series 3 slimline seats, which you will also find on Allegiant and Frontier's older aircraft. And here's our seat for today, 23A. So, like I said, these are the same types of seats you will find on some ultra-low-cost carriers, so they are pretty bare bones. The back has no adjustable headrest, and the seat back looks like, well, at least you get this very tiny tray table. Below that, there's a proper seat back pocket, but it only really fits the magazine, safety card, and sick bag. At least the legroom is okay thanks to how slim the seats are. Because of this pylon, you won't find much underseat room for window seat passengers. Luckily, my bag is pretty small. And directly above you, you get your standard air vents and reading lights. Okay, so this doesn't look pretty, but comfort isn't that big of a deal given how short these flights are. I cannot forgive these windows though. They look like they haven't been cleaned in years. But at least we get a view of the engine. If you are wondering, yes, I did sit this far back so I could lose my hearing to the engine. Despite it being really loud back here though, thanks to the engine placement, the rest of the plane isn't that bad. This aircraft is powered by a pair of Rolls-Royce BR715s, which were specifically designed to handle the amount of daily flights that the 717 is intended for. These engines are probably a big reason why Hawaiian has stuck to the 717 for so long. Other variants of the BR700 family are very popular on private jets like the Global Express and Gulfstream. A military variant, the F-130, will also soon be powering the new B-52J. I've got to say, the same engine powering these 2 aircraft just feels wrong.
And landing, small personal electronic devices may be used anytime during the flight. Your compliance with the no smoking and fasten seatbelt signs posted placards on behalf of all of us at Hawaiian Airlines, thank you very much for choosing to fly with us. Mahalo nui and enjoy your flight.
Well, it's about time to take off. I'll let you enjoy the sounds of these engines, and rejoin you back in the air. Wow, that window is really painful. Sorry about that. First thing I normally do once we're in the air is start looking at in-flight entertainment. Unsurprisingly though, this plane doesn't have any. No stream-to-device entertainment or Wi-Fi. Normally I wouldn't count a safety card, but for such a unique aircraft, I couldn't resist taking a look. That reminds me of another interesting feature of this aircraft. In emergencies, along with the normal exits you'd expect to see, these aircraft have a tail cone exit. That's right, the entire tail cone is supposed to pop off and deploy a slide. This is a feature seen on the whole DC-9 family. The 717 is unique, however, in lacking rear air stairs. Other DC-9 family aircraft had these as an extra built-in entrance, since many smaller airports lacked mobile stairs. This was omitted in the 717s to save weight and money though, since by the early 2000s, this just wasn't much of an issue. Well, one last look at Maui. This was filmed in late 2023, not long after the tragic fires that destroyed the town of Lahaina, which you can see pretty well here. And we are finally leveling off at our cruising altitude of just 14,000 feet as we pass by the tiny resort island of Lanai. We will only be at this cruising altitude for about 4 minutes. The flight crew took advantage of it though by doing a quick service despite the flight only having 20 minutes to go. This is POG, or Passion Orange Guava Nectar. It's handed out as a standard on Hawaiian inter-island flights in these little cups. You can also get it in a can on their longer flights. This was actually the only drink offered on this flight because of the limited time, but I don't know if that's standard or changes with the time of day. This was no problem for me though either way because this stuff is amazing. There was some fear early on that the merger with Alaska would cause this drink to go away, but the Hawaiian CEO specifically assured it isn't going anywhere. Speaking of, where does the merger leave the 717? Many initially feared the 717 was also to be up for retirement quickly, but with no publicly stated plans to retire them yet, and no chosen replacement, they probably have a few more years to go. The main issue is the engines. As I said before, the engines on the 717 are purpose-built for tons of flights every day, unlike most modern engines which are optimized for longer flights and endurance. The natural replacements in terms of seat capacity, the E295s and A220s, both have Pratt & Whitney geared turbofans. And while this has the advantage of sharing some parts with Hawaiian's A321neos, these engines have proven rather hard to maintain. Other candidates include the 737 MAX 7, but that's not even approved yet, the A319, but those are also getting pretty old, and the E175s, already very heavily used on Alaska's regional flights, and also pretty tolerant of lots of cycles, but it's also quite a bit smaller. In the end, though, we'll just have to wait and see. Until then, I don't mind seeing these cool aircraft once in a while.
Aloha kako. The captain has just turned on the fasten seatbelt signs indicating our descent. Please make sure your seatbelts are securely fastened.
And with that, it looks like we are already on approach. I'll meet back with you after landing. Well, that was a cool experience, and I'm glad I could bring you along. While Hawaiian 717s may not be the most comfortable thanks to these seats, the length of the flight means it really doesn't matter, and the juice makes up for it anyway. The most important thing though, the 717 makes for a much more interesting inter-island flight than the only other alternative, just another Southwest 737. I hope you enjoyed the review. I intended to keep this one under 10 minutes, which obviously went great, but I hope it was still worth the time. This will be it for Hawaiian flights for now, since my flight home was a red-eye. Next up, I'll be doing my first international long-haul review, which I'm really excited for, and so you don't miss it, make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you there.